Hey everybody, Sean here from the Black Page and talking to Aaron Comas. Aaron, how are you doing, man?
Hey Sean, how's it going?
Great. So you have a new album coming out, and before we talk about that, though, first I just want to talk a little bit about the project that that you play with that has done the album. How did it get started, and what's it called?
Well, this is going to be a live release actually. It's with my trio, which is myself on drums, Teddy Kumpel on guitar, and Richard Hammond on bass. And this particular group has been together now about, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years.
Okay,
And we've put out two records. The last studio record was called Blues for Use, and then the one before that was called Beautiful Mistake.
okay.
And prior to that, I did a record in 2006 called Catskills Cry with Tony Levin and Bill Dillon, and
Oh,
that was kind of the beginning of me making my own records of my own instrumental music.
right,
So 10 years later, it's been great. I put out a bunch of them, and it's turned into a. This particular group has really developed in a really cool way, and I thought it would be interesting to release a record on how we've developed live.
right, great. Um, the so when you've started your making your own records and recording with your own projects. For you, what is the I guess for lack of a better term, the birthing process? When does the album kind of start coming alive for you, and how does that ball get rolling? How do you start sort of nurturing that process?
Yeah, well, right here. I usually am just sitting on this chair or somewhere like this and pick up my acoustic guitar, and that's how I do a lot of my most of my writing. I do on acoustic guitar. I really love the acoustic guitar, and I don't want to break it here.
Yeah.
And so basically, I'm always coming up with little bits, and usually when I get to a point where I feel like I have a bunch of songs, I'll kind of start thinking about putting a record together.
Okay.
And all three of the studio records that I've done, which have been my original songs, have all pretty much, I mean, 98, I actually 100% of them have been written on guitar.
Right.
And so that's basically my process. I'll write the stuff on guitar, and then I'll demo the stuff in my studio, and I'll send it to the guys, and we'll get together and go for it. And
Right.
then from there, the cool thing about this live record is with all the studio records, I would demo the stuff, and then we would get together and just do it. I didn't find the need for a lot of rehearsal. These guys are great. They would learn the stuff. We'd come in
Right.
and spend a couple of days and really get it together. And usually things would happen in the studio that you might not have expected, which is what I love.
Right. Yeah.
But from that point, so much has developed with these songs since we've been playing them live over the last 4 or 5 years. So, that's the cool thing about this live record.
Right. Um, and for you, of course, meeting players around New York it probably isn't that difficult. But so for when you decide, okay, this is an act I'd like to pursue something with. How do you sort of meet players that you find you can trust to get that message or put that point across in your music?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, you know, I immediately knew I wanted Teddy Kumpel to be the guitar player.
Right.
I've known Teddy for a long time. He's a great guitar player, and we're good friends, and he can basically play anything. And
Right.
part of the challenge with doing my music is that I'm basically handing somebody this composed part. So there's no vocalist. So it's very much about respecting the melody and respecting the parts. And I really wanted to find somebody that could kind of take what I've done and respect that and then make it their own. And Teddy has just
Right.
been so amazing at doing that.
Yeah.
And I can't say enough good things about how he's interpreted the music. And then Richard Hammond is another great friend of mine who's a wonderful bass player. We've been playing together for over 10 years. We've done a lot of different projects together. So we have just a great chemistry. And he also has the ability to kind of go anywhere musically. So, it was when I put this particular trio together, it was immediate. Like those were the guys I wanted to use.
Right.
No question. Yeah.
Right. Is it a challenge to have guys come in and be honest, or or is it like, no, Aaron just does everything right, and that kind of thing, or how does it work for you to to sort of go in there and still be growing as a player, even though they know they're playing with Aaron Comas? I mean, that must be for some cats a little bit daunting.
Not really. I mean, that's the beauty of New York City. There's so many amazing musicians here. I'm just one of many, musicians here in New York City, and one of the reasons I came here 27 years ago was to get my ass kicked and become a better player.
Right.
And that's the reason I'm still here, is because I get my ass kicked every day. There's such a great, amazing amount of talent here, and you know, there's so many, all the different generations now. We got the generations before me that I came here to learn from, and then my own generation, now the generation younger than me, which has got some incredible players, which are now like a
Yeah.
lot of my main influences. So
Yeah.
I'm in a good place because I'm taking from everybody, and we're all friends here. So there's
Yeah.
never any kind of intimidation. I mean, when you go to the studio with people, whether it's my own project or whether I'm working for somebody else, everybody's there for a reason, and we're all, it's always an open-minded situation where, you want to call. I know in my situation, I want to call people that are going to contribute to the project,
Right.
and I think when people call me, they want me to contribute. So it's a good situation. That's one of the beauties of New York. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You have another project, Aaron, that you said you've played with quite a bit. The Air-Conditioned Gypsies. Let's talk about them for a little bit. What?
Yeah, cool. That's my latest group that I've been doing for about a year now, and it's basically a kind of a collective. And I'm able to call upon all my favorite musicians here in New York, and I've been doing gigs about once every 6 weeks or so over at the Rockwood Music Hall.
Okay.
And it's been great. I've done a couple with two drummers. I've done two with Mark Giuliani, one of my favorite drummers. Amazing. Jojo Mayer, another incredible drummer. Those were great. And all kinds of guys. Just it's every time I do it, every band is different.
Right.
Right. So I call usually different. The only guy that I always have is a guy named Leon Grumbaum, who plays an instrument called the Chillin, which he invented. It's this crazy MIDI instrument that he made. But the concept of the group is basically pretty much all improv. We show up, it's different guys, and we improv. We try to keep things kind of not like a 90-minute jam, but like short little musical pieces.
Right.
And it's been great. And that's kind of what I'm working for my next record. And I'm recording all the shows. So I'm looking for like little short bits of my favorite moments from all these different shows, as well as I've started to do a bunch of stuff in the studio with different groups of people. And it's going to be really cool. It's going to be totally unique, totally different than anything I've ever done. And I'm not in any rush. It'll probably come out sometime early 17 or something.
Oh, cool.
It's a really fun project.
So the Chillin, let's go back to that for a second. So I would assume it's a keyboard-based instrument, or?
Well, it's actually he plays from a computer keypad.
Okay.
So he came up with this crazy software that basically through the keypad, has all his samples going, and you can also put the software into a keyboard too. So he usually has a keyboard, and the actual Chillin is this weird looking thing that has like a keypad on it. So you got to look it up. Just look up Chillin.
Okay, for sure.
Leon Grombaum. And if you go on YouTube, a lot of the Airconditioned Gypsies gigs.
Oh, great.
Just look up Aaron Comas and the Airconditioned Gypsies.
Cool.
There's a lot of them, and he's on all of them. He's the one guy that I want to have at every gig. Everything else,
I can see why.
just because it's so unique.
Yeah, for sure.
But everybody else is like this constantly revolving cast of amazing New York City musicians. That's been a blast.
Yeah, that's great, and I mean that obviously, I mean that would totally feed JoJo. We spoke with him a couple years ago, and that's right up his alley. I mean
we had a great time playing.
That's what he's all about.
He's great.
How did you begin your musical foray into any kind of instrument? Was it drums first, guitar first?
Actually, I played piano when I was about 5. I took classical piano lessons for a while, and then when I got to be around 9, I decided I wanted to play drums. And I told my parents, I want to get drum lessons. And lucky for me, they found this great teacher. I grew up in Dallas, Texas.
Right.
This great teacher named Jack Iden, who got me started on drums, and he immediately got me on, rudiments and weeding, and wouldn't let me get off the snare drum for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Which was great. Even though I was kicking and screaming, it was the best thing that happened to me.
Absolutely.
So I'm very thankful to that guy. But yeah, that's basically how it started.
Cool. With the album coming out, the new album, and this is actually a question I like to ask a lot of musicians in this day and age. I mean, with you having been with the Spin Doctors, you were in an era where CDs and albums and record companies were still very much thriving, and that's not the case so much anymore. So as Aaron Comas and 2016. What does the musical landscape look like to you, as far as, people say the music industry is dying, or it's dead, or it's had its. What's your take on that whole thing, and how would you, as an independent artist, release this album?
Well, this is actually the first album I'm putting out completely digitally.
Wow.
I'm not even gonna bother putting up CDs. And I still do like to print up CDs, and I think it's still a good thing for people to do, especially if you're in a band or if you're an act that's touring a lot,
Right.
because people still will buy CDs at gigs. It can be a viable way to get your music out there and make some money. But I don't tour a lot with this group, and
Okay.
I didn't see the purpose to, at least for this project, to. I just wanted to try to just do it just digitally. So this one is just going to be available, in all digital formats, and it'll save me a couple boxes in my closet. But to answer your question about the music business, I'm optimistic about it. I mean, look, I was definitely lucky to come up in a time with the Spin Doctors in the '90s, where the music business was really thriving. It
Yeah.
was kind of peak time, CDs, and people were buying cassettes, CDs, vinyl. It was
Yeah.
all, it was really. There was a lot of money still in the industry. MTV was huge. You really could have a big record like we did.
Yeah.
So I feel very lucky. And it's different, and I try to stay optimistic about it. It's really easy to get dark about it. You hear a lot of people like, "Oh, the music that those days," but it's like I'm living here in New York, and I see from a pure musical standpoint, on a creative level, on a talent level, it's better than ever, as
Cool.
good or better than ever. So I try to judge like the musical landscape by the kind of music I'm hearing. And I'm hearing great music. So the downside is that, yes, it is a fact that it's become harder for people to earn a living, but you can still earn a living. You just have to be a little different about it. You have to look at things a little bit differently. People aren't trying to be like everybody else. I'm just seeing a lot more creative bands out there now, because they're not so concerned with like getting a record deal.
Right.
And all of a sudden, that's good for the creativity of music, because nobody should be making music to get a record deal anyway. I mean,
Right.
Spin Doctors certainly never did. We were not a band at all that were our goals weren't to get a record deal and have a hit record. Our goals early on, which I think should be the goals of any artist, is to make really good music.
Yeah.
Try to figure out a way to make a living at it.
Yeah.
And that was our goal. Lucky for us, it snowballed, and we had a really good fan, and we did get a record deal, and we were in the industry at a time where it was, where with a lot of hard work and a lot of fighting, we got where we wanted to go. But
Right.
I try to stay optimistic, and people always ask me this question, especially younger musicians, and I'm just like, listen, you got to be super dedicated, you got to be super committed, you got to be really good, you got to have something that's unique and different,
Yeah.
and then you got to get out there and work really hard. If
Right.
you're a band or any kind of artist, there's no way around it. You've got to get on the road. You've got to play gigs. The computer thing is great. This is all very important. How you maneuver that, but it's not everything. And I think there's a
Yeah.
stigma that I think there's a misconception. I mean, that people think they can have a career just from uploading stuff on the internet. And every now and then it works, but it's not really. You got to get out there and see the people, man.
Sure.
Break with the people.
Sure.
Gotcha.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's the deal, right? That's never changed. Is
Exactly.
getting out and playing.
And live music is never going to. Live music is great. It's as big as ever. That's never going to change. People are always going to want to hear live music. As far as the recording industry, that remains to be seen. There needs to be a lot of changes to be made to get some income back into the artist's hands. And I hope that I think that we're in a transitional phase, and I think that over time we're gonna figure out a way to make that happen. Right now, it's definitely a transitional phase, and it's not very good,
Yeah.
for the artists, and everybody deserves to get paid for their music.
Absolutely. Speaking of putting the money back in the artist's hands, where can we get the new album? When does it drop? And it's obviously going to be online. So where would they go online?
You can just get it for free on SoundCloud.
Oh.
Why pay me? No, but obviously it'll be streaming. But hopefully you'll go on iTunes or any of the digital formats, and you can buy it there.
Cool.
It'll be out on April 1st on all the digital mediums. So take a look for it. My daughter did the cover. It's a beautiful cover.
Nice.
And I'm excited for people to take a listen to it.
Yeah, for sure. Quickly before we go, any news to report on the Spin Doctors? Are you guys going out at all?
Spin Doctors, we're on a little bit of a hiatus this year because our singer, Chris Barron, He's having some vocal issues,
Okay.
but he's getting better. We've been really busy the last 4 or 5 years, all the original members. So I think this year is going to be a little light for the band. But 2017, we're definitely going to be back playing a lot. We've got about a half a record in the can that we started about a year ago.
Cool.
So once Chris heals up, we'll probably do some more writing and some more recording, and we'll certainly be doing a lot of shows. I'd say sometime next year.
Right on. And before we go, April 1st, the album drops. Where can we see you live around New York or on the road? What's coming up in the next couple of months?
Well, the next gig I'm doing with my band is going to be, let's see. Let me look at my calendar here. But I can tell you it's going to be March 30th at the Rockwood Music Hall at 9 p.m. The trio is going to play. We're going to do all the songs off the live record. I'm playing next Friday, March 18th, at a really cool new venue in Jersey City called the Fox and Crow with the Airconditioned Gypsies.
Cool.
And then I'm doing another Airconditioned Gypsies show at Rockwood Stage 2 on, I believe it's April 26th.
Cool.
Those are the next things I have going.
Right on.
With my own groups.
Right on. Black Page readers, get in touch if you have any questions or you want to find out more about Aaron's latest release. Let us know and we'll send you a link to where he's at. Thank you very much to Aaron. And of course, if you have any comments, questions, send them along to Facebook, Twitter, Google+, or of course email us, Sean@theblackpage.net. Thanks again, Aaron, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Hey, Sean, thanks for talking, man. Great to see you.